All right, everybody, welcome. Darren Tipton and Hunter here. Edition of, I think we'll call this the Cat Chat for Kentucky Home. And thanks to our subscribers. And Hunter, let's jump right into it. In the middle of spring ball, and you are lucky enough to be in beautiful Lexington, Kentucky. And let's start. You got to go to practice a little bit this week. Let's talk about the Cats and give everybody an update and chat about the team a little bit.
Yeah, I went to practice yesterday. Spent about 2 hours there just watching them do some drills. They did a little bit of scrimmaging. Got to meet Kyle and Amaya officially, formally for the first time. Chat with them a little bit. So it was really cool. The energy in the gym is really, really high. I've talked to Meredith Jewell, the assistant coach for Kentucky, a lot on the phone, and she's mentioned that. But getting to be there and actually see it in person was really cool. It's a competitive team, and most of Craig's teams are always that way. He kind of is that kind of coach. He instills like you want to practice the way you play, make sure you're bringing that competitive fire to practice. But this team is just full of some dogs, for lack of a better term. I mean, these are some really big hitters that are going at one another every day in practice, and it's very evident. Even in I've been to one practice, but even in that one, like that was very clear from the jump. So the first thing that I noticed was just, man, they are really going at it in practice, and I think it's going to help us substantially, once the season comes along. So really good area there. Then obviously, so many people have asked just about the setter position with Emma not being there anymore. Is it going to be the freshman Cassie O'Brien? Is it going to be Ava Sarafa, who's obviously had the injury her freshman year and then played in kind of a serving specialist role last year? They both got reps in the spring game they played against Dayton. They're both obviously setting against one another in practice every day. Both of them looked good yesterday. I was keeping a very close eye on, how's Ava doing? How is Cassie doing? They're both working a lot on tempo. As you know, Darren, Kentucky is really hammering home this fast offense. And so they are just constantly hammering tempo, 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 go, 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 trying to nail down that connection with all of the new hitters. And I talked to Eva Hudson after practice yesterday and kind of brought this up. And she said, well, it's kind of nice that we have new setters because I'm not any more behind than the rest of us. We're all figuring out the connection with the setters right now. So, there's not really been, at least from what I've been told from coaches and just from watching, there hasn't really been like one that's like clearly above the other. They're both kind of figuring things out right now and trying to figure out who's going to take that starting role. But I think they're all really excited about each prospect and what they each bring to the table. So.
Yeah, and I think when I've talked with my connections as well, and I got to talk with Meredith on the recruiting trail last weekend. That's the comment is, hey, we've been spoiled for basically 8 straight years
8 years, yeah.
Of all-American type setters, and it's different, and it is different, and the difference is now they have that established, the attackers and very, very good ones, and it's time for a setter to step up. And my take is that it's not going to be a decision that's going to be made. My guess is probably until late in fall camp even.
Yep. Right. And that's kind of been the vibe that I've gotten from Meredith. They are just very much like, we want to give both of them a fair shot in spring ball, roll them both out there, let them all get reps with every hitter. Because, I think sometimes we look at like battles and competition in on teams as like, oh, well, there's no clear athlete that's better than the rest. It's a bad thing. But these girls are going at each other. And I think they are getting better because they know, if I don't set well, this girl behind me is going to take my spot and vice versa. And so they have the model, like you mentioned, of having seen what Madison Lilly, and then Emma Grome the last 8 years. The coaching staff has the model of, this is what we want our offense to look like. And Kentucky has had one of the best offenses statistically in the country for the last 5 years now. So, their strategy and the way they're doing it is working. I think the cool thing now is they have the model, and now it's just going to be, which of these two setters can we get to really plug into that model the fastest? And that's been what Meredith has mentioned. Like, it's just going to come down to who can pick up everything that we're throwing at them the fastest, because they're not just getting used to hitters, they're also running a lot of complex offensive routes. Yesterday I was in practice, they ran stuff I've never seen Craig run before, really trying to take advantage of having Brooklyn DeLay and Eva Hudson, just this such a rare, unique 1-2 hitter combination. They are throwing a lot of unique stuff in the offense this year. And so you're not only getting your setters used to hitters, you're also trying to get them to get used to all these complex routes that you're running, and tempos that you're running and stuff. So it's going to be a learning process. But the cool thing is they have everyone on campus already. And sometimes that's not the case, especially with freshmen. Cassie's already on campus and is already in spring ball and is going for it. I think they're both going to be more than ready come the fall. So,
well, and I think that's the difference is they don't want somebody to lose the setter competition. They want both to win, and they want somebody to excel, right?
Yep.
And it's like I remember talking to Molly Tuzzo a year and a half ago, and she's like, I remember her attitude when she didn't win the bro position right away. And she's like, it never crossed my mind for a second that I wouldn't start the first day I walked in here. Right. And I talked to her about the competitor inside her, right? And she's like, the coaches, she's like, I'm feisty, I'm disappointed, I'm angry, I'm not starting. I'm like, well, how do the coaches take that? And she's like, I'm in their office, I'm asking what I can do. And she's like, the coaches don't want me to change. They want me to keep that attitude like I should be the bro. And I never thought of it like that. Mm-hmm. Like, right, as a coach, you're like, okay, be the great teammate, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, they want me pushing every single day.
Right.
Come on now. What frustrates me on a national scale is that Kentucky doesn't get more of this publicity. Mm-hmm. That is a top 5, a top 6, 7 program in the country where Ava, Cassie, All-American setters, everybody they bring in is used to being at this level. They should all expect to play every day. And that's a great thing for the program.
Yeah. And again, seeing that competitive fire in both Cassie and Ava when I'm in the gym watching them tells me that's why when people say, is there any concern about the setting? I don't think there's any concern about the setting. I think either setter are going to have strengths and weaknesses. We've already talked about that. I've written some pieces and talked about that on the site. So we know that they're each gonna have things they have to work on individually, but they both have the intangibles, I think, that are required to set in the SEC and set it at a high program like Kentucky. And so I don't think there's any reason to really worry about that, especially when you have a lot of the hitters that you have. They're going to be able to take any ball that you set them and make something out of it. So can they have the luxury of playing with some incredible athletes on the team this year that are going to make them look good, whether they're setting great that day or not? So,
right. And I knew it was a pipe dream to say we would get this done in 10 minutes. We'll talk about the setters for 10 minutes, but it will move on. But the other thing that is frustrating about my friend Craig Skinner is I'm like, why do you schedule the way you schedule?
That's what Craig does. Yeah.
The first 6 matches when you got a freshman setter buddy, like schedule like this team does and give them a little bit of a break and let them settle in. But no, they don't get a cakewalk, and it's, and so they're thrown into the fire right away. And he's like, they'll be ready for December. And I'm like, every year it's like they would have had a real preseason like a lot of programs schedule soft. They'd have time to acclimate. Not at Kentucky.
No, and that goes back to that competitive fire. It's modeled in their coach. That's how Craig is. He is competitive. He has no issue scheduling the Nebraskas, the Louisvilles, the Wisconsins, the Pittsburgh. I mean, he got no issue. And he is going to roll them out there and say, hey, let's figure this out early in August. That way, come November, December, we're winning SEC championships and vying for the NCAA tournament. So sometimes I'm the same way, Darren. Sometimes I look at the schedule and I say, man, Craig, I have to tweet about all this and get blasted from fans in my comments about, Hunter, what's wrong with the program? And I have to tell him to calm down. I got to tell him to chill out. Let Craig do his thing. So
people are like, we didn't tune in to listen to Craig's scheduling philosophy. So let's move on. All right. So 6 new faces, including one of those setters. But I want to talk, let's go to the middles we talked that aren't new, but they're coaches. And my gut reaction when I heard Amaya Tillman was fiery, competitive, and with Lizzie Carr, that combination, it sounds like that's exactly what we're getting so far.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so weird seeing Amaya Tillman in blue in Lexington. When I met her yesterday, I told her, I said, "Man, I covered you for so long. This is weird seeing you now in Lexington wearing blue." But Amaya has brought all of those things to the practice gym. And yesterday, watching her, pull middles aside and work individually with them. I didn't even think about this when she was hired, but it's so true. Even watching her get in and scrimmage with them as a middle blocker, like they're going up against an All-American middle blocker in practice who played in the Final Four. Like Amaya is playing with them, blocking against players like Eva Hudson and Brooklyn DeLay, and setting against the set. All of those things are so invaluable. And Darren, you know this. Like Kentucky has never been a dominant middle team. They just haven't. Their best players have been their pin hitters, the Leah Edmonds, the Allie Stumblers. That's where they've had their success. They've been solid in the middle, but they're not a team that's known for they're going to have a ton of blocks per set, and that's how they're going to win. The way Louisville has been the last several years, to be frank. Amaya brings that in, and I think you're seeing so much. Like Brooke Bultema is just every word that Amaya says, she is listening intently, absorbing like a sponge. You mentioned Lizzie Carr. When Eva Hudson announced her signing into Kentucky, everyone's eyes and ears were perked at that. But you texted me and said, "Don't sleep on that signing of Lizzie Carr. She might be something really special for Kentucky." And I couldn't stop watching her yesterday. She is every bit of the 6'6" frame that she is listed on the website. She is a huge figure. I was watching her at the net, and she can stand up at the net and put her hands up and not even jump and block every ball that is swung at her. I mean, she is an imposing figure that Kentucky has not had. And Meredith even said on the phone, I've not coached an athlete like Lizzie in a very, very long time. She is just a unique talent. And they're trying some different stuff with her in terms of her offensive routes that she's running, but also in the way that she's blocking. She doesn't even have to open her hips and load to jump over the net. She's shuffling across the net and just jumping. So she's faster, and she's just able to read hitters really well. They are getting a lot from Amaya, and I think it's going to be initially when Lizzie was signed, I was thinking she was going to play on the right side, but I am pretty confident that her and Brooke Bultema will likely be Kentucky's, starting middle blockers come the fall. And they are going to be a aggressive blocking force. Because even last year, Brooke Bultema's first season in the middle blocker starting, I was really impressed with her. And that is only continuing. She is getting more and more physical at the net. And I think Amaya has been a very big part in both of them, for that matter, really being as physical as they are. So.
Yeah, I just the little birdies that whispered to me back in December were like, "Hey, used and confidence blown into her like she is untapped and huge potential and just longer leash." And it sounds like that's happening. And but I love. That I think she's going to be the energizer. And we talked about another former middle for the Cats that we'll just say former middle because you got to finish at Kentucky to bring up names. We'll just say a former middle that brought some energy. So that's going to be her job for Lizzie, I think, is to be kind of that energizer and that juice giver for the team as I look up and down the roster and hopefully she can make that contagious to a couple of her teammates. So maybe Brez, I'm guessing Brez might have a little bit to do with that too.
She talks a lot. She was very loud on the court yesterday, which is a good thing. You want your bros to be that way, and she does not stop talking. It's a good thing.
That's good because Tuzzo and I've talked. I think Tuzzo needs to be a little louder.
Yeah, and she knows that. She knows that too. So I like that Molly is doing that and challenging the other. They're both Molly. I like that Brez is challenging Molly Tuzzo in that regard. Because yes, Molly is be the first to tell you, I'm learning how to talk more and communicate better on the court. And I like that Brez has come in and is already comfortable doing that. Again, sometimes with all of these new players, you wonder, are they going to feel like they're stepping on any toes? And Brez they have all given the autonomy and said, no, we want you to do that. Come in and lead. And she was great yesterday. So no issue there.
We'll go through and talk about, let's go to the pins, go to the right side a little bit. You talked about Jordan And, Georgia a little bit, another freshman that's coming in, obviously a lot of experience, has to gain a lot of experience. But I love the athleticism that Jordan possesses out
Mm-hmm.
there. And I don't think people got to see it last year because I think she was thinking a lot and I
Mm-hmm.
think she's growing. I think she's on a potentially really big year.
Yeah, and Jordan's one of those athletes that, like you mentioned, she is an explosive athlete, but we didn't always see it because she was playing in the middle. I think she's more comfortable on that right pin. And just looking at her, watching her run routes in practice, she looks that way too. She and Georgia both, you mentioned it, they are both really, really impressive athletes. Meredith mentioned on the phone to me last week about like, yeah, we've really been keeping our eye on watching Georgia lately, and I have not obviously seen Georgia play until yesterday. And so when I went to practice, I was I want to see what Georgia does. I want to see how she looks, and everything Meredith said was true. Georgia looks far better for a freshman playing spring ball than I ever expected her to. She's got a disgusting float serve. I mean, she was acing people left and right, and these are great passers. I mean, she has a nasty float serve, and just the way that she swings at the ball, she's got a cannon. She's athletic. She's also really big. She's 6'3". So really, when you look across the net for Kentucky, this is one of Craig's biggest teams that he's had since I've been covering them. Brooklyn DeLay is 6'2", Eva Hudson is 6'1", Cassie O'Brien is 6'1", Brooke Bultema is 6'3", Lizzie is obviously 6'6". Like, this is a big team, and I think that's also really, really evident on that right pin. They're going up and getting these balls. I think we do have a setter battle, but I would not be surprised if we developed into a right side battle. I think Georgia's going to give Jordan all she can handle out there.
Well, and one thing, and then we'll go on. We'll come back and again. We're not many of these, everybody. We're not going anywhere. So
Yeah.
it's a great thing about this website. But I want to close with two things, and we'll get it under 20 minutes. But Hannah Benjamin, we talked about, had a chance. I love her, and Wildcat Nation does not know what they are getting. But talk about her. I know they're taking their time, waiting for her to come back. But any status update on her and how she's doing?
Yeah, so Hannah is fully lifting with the team. Like, she's a full participant in all the lifting stuff. In practice yesterday, she didn't do any of the drills with the team because all of the drills they were doing were up against opposing blockers. So she's not actually doing drills or swinging when a blocker is across the net. She's able to jump. She's doing jumping drills, all that stuff. They just don't want, they're taking their time with her, obviously, going up and swinging against a block where you can potentially land on someone's ankle. They just want to, they're being cautious. Meredith said they don't know for sure if we'll see her in spring ball. If she did come back in spring ball, I would be surprised. If she did, it would probably be like, a couple plays at the very end of the spring season. So I don't think she'll be back this season in terms of the spring, but she is fully in practice. Yesterday, she was serving with the team. You mentioned it. She is. We forget about her because she was hurt last year and we're so focused on what's playing right now. She is another like lethal weapon that Craig is going to have a hard time keeping off the court. I mean, how do you leave a player like Hannah off the floor? I watched her play in that All-Star game. Like, she was ridiculous. And so she's another pin hitter they have that just is really, really talented. So we'll see if she, again, having that into the reserve behind Eva and Brooklyn is only going to make them better. Like, so it's not a bad thing. It'll be interesting to see what does Craig do, because he has a plethora of talent this year on those pins.
And just her mentality when I watch it, so I tell everybody, I don't know, and you know this, I don't know the technique and that, but I can watch a competitor and I can watch how other competitors watch competitors. And when I watched at that Under Armour week, as the week went on, bigger, more athletic athletes respected the heck out of Hannah Benjamin because of what she did, right? Game respects game.
Yeah,
right? It's the same basketball, and she had the respect of everybody. And I swear to you, it's one of those things where if she would have committed to a different school, I think she was the MVP.
Oh, 100%.
Because of the stats she put up. she killed it that week.
Mm-hmm.
And you looked at her and she's so unassuming, and she was every bit. She'd have helped them more last year than she would have
Mm-hmm.
this year, right?
Because it felt like Kentucky was a
They,
pin hitter away last year. That's what they felt like.
and maybe the first match when they
Mm.
needed somebody to come in, that was the confidence that she had. I mean, Wildcat Nation, you have no idea. I love this kid, and what she comes back when she has the confidence, and she will be just, I can't imagine how antsy she is to just get back. I know they will be pulling at the reins to keep her back. But we'll talk more about her. But Hannah, I can't wait till you back. I know you can't wait. And Kentucky fans, you got something special coming that it's going to be great to have her back. And it's another All-American that, oh, by the way, we're just going to throw in there. So excited to get her. But it's one thing. That's another thing I want to touch on is just how much deeper this team is than last year's.
Yeah.
Like, I think last year they would have been begging to push her back because they needed that arm so bad. Talk about that a little bit, just the depth and talent.
When you looked at last year's team, they had so much offensive weaponry in terms of like Brooklyn and how good Emma was at getting Brooklyn open. We saw Brooke Boltima get open on that right pin, but it just felt like those were the two really main scorers. They didn't get enough consistent offense from the right pin. And Erin Lamb, God love her, was so battling. She's battled injury her entire career. She just could never stay healthy. Asia couldn't stay healthy. Like, it just felt like injuries and just a lack of consistency really killed that team last year. And like you said, if they would have had a healthy Hannah Benjamin, who knows what they could have done. But yeah, that is not a problem with this year's team. They have so many talented pin hitters that they could legitimately plug and play on either pin, and I think they would be excellent. And again, I think that just goes back to what we're talking about. The depth of this team is only going to make them better. They're practicing against one another. And again, some of the stuff that they're digging, the arm swings they're having to go up against just in the practice gym, the serves they're having to pass from behind the serve. I haven't talked about that yet, just like how good they are from behind the service line. Like, they are going at one another, and that depth is incredibly valuable, not only in terms of having it in case of injury, obviously, hopefully not, but just in terms of like what you're practicing against every day and going up against Brooklyn and Eva, swinging at one another, and Georgia going up against Jordan Daly every day. Like, it just having that in your gym to practice against is so helpful. When you play a schedule like Craig does and you're playing against the Nebraskas and the Louisvilles, it only helps you get better and get ready for those matches. So depth is a really, really big thing to this year's team. And like you said, I think Craig has a wealth of riches that he's going to have to figure out, how do I keep certain people off the floor? Because I don't know how. You only play 6 at a time. So he got to figure some stuff out. So
yeah, and I think next time we'll dive a little bit more into their mentality and just the cohesion that I've heard about from some of the athletes on this team. Just you can tell when it's lip service, and you can tell when it's genuine. And we'll dive into that a little bit more, Hunter. I think we better let you go, A, because we've kept everybody too long, and B, because my heart rate cannot get this escalated in April. I'm not going to make it. I'm excited. I'm excited for a lot of things, but I'm excited for this team. I'm excited for my man Skinner. I'm pumped up. And 2, let's get some alumni back. I know you're tight with them. Let's get the word out. They need to subscribe. They need to tune in, and they need to spread the word. We got to get a lot more Kentucky fans subscribing, giving us input. They got to get the word out, right?
I'll get them. The problem is they're all playing professionally now. I got to get them off their season and get over here.
I know they're playing professionally. You know how I know that? Because it's on the Kentucky college site every day.
It is every day.
Right. I'm not going to get on that soapbox right now, but we've got the college news right here on this site. Let's get the word out. Then those pros can follow what their alma mater is doing right here.
Heck yeah.
They can broadcast back. They can chime in. I've met a couple of them. They're good about giving their input.
Yes, they are.
We'll get some guests. They can break down what these guys are doing. This is the program that goes to the Final Four, right?
Yes,
We're
sir.
going. That's right. Your
Let's do it.
destination is Kansas
Let's
City.
do it. Heck yes,
Kansas
sir.
City, Hunter. We're going. All right, buddy. You enjoy the rest of your spring break. Hunter does an amazing job. Kentucky home, everybody. Get subscribing. Spread the word. I will see you in Louisville. You can make that trip, right?
Yes, that's an easy one. That's right down the road for me.
Well, it's a little bit down the road for me, but I know that airport well. So I will see you, buddy. Everybody subscribe, reach out. We're going to have a lot more like this on Kentucky home. And I'll talk to you soon. Okay, bud?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Darren.
All right. Take care, my man.